Hello everyone, Pratik here. Am I audible?
Yes, Pratik.
Oh, thank you.
Hi everyone. How you doing? We'll just wait couple more minutes for some more students to join in, and then like in 5 minutes we'll start with the PPT.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you today? Can I ask you what do you want to do? Maybe I can help you here. A check? Okay, into your account you want to deposit it. I can help you here, sir, if you want. Yep. I'll be right with you, okay? Okay, it's gonna be your account, am I right? Okay. And what is your account number? Do you know your account number? I can just wait for you. Yes. Yes. Can I borrow your ID? Thank you.
So hello everyone. Good morning from USA, and it's like late in the night in India. So thank you for joining, and we'll get started with our PPT about how you'll pay fees from India and what are your options. So we have a bunch of IC officers on the call. So you might also put your queries in the chat box while the presentation is going on, and then we can have a Q&A round. Well, we'll to fix all your queries and questions. So here I am, President of UTD ISA. We'll just start with the PPT. So Pratik, next slide, please. Yeah. So once again, congratulations. Congratulations who have decided to come to this esteemed university. And I say wishes all the best to the students who will start their courses online. So whatever help you might need throughout your curriculum in the fall semester while you are in India, you can just drop in a message on the WhatsApp groups which we have, and we will just try to figure out a way to solve your queries. So don't worry about that. It's just a different experience. You'll be here by God's grace in spring, and then we can like meet and have fun. So I'm waiting on that. So let's move forward. Pratik, next slide. So this is our team. So okay, no problem. So Pratik, yeah. So this is our team. We have a bunch of 26 people, and we are there in all the WhatsApp groups. So and we are a mix of different departments. So we cater to each and every individual, or even if we couldn't, we will find you somebody who who we can pair you with, like we did in the buddy program, or even if you couldn't find help with your buddy, we can still help you with a different person. So don't worry about that. You can just drop in a text in the group and you will get answered. So moving on to next, and I'll hand over to the Pratik. He's our events officer. He'll be speaking about various fee payment methods, and we'll talk about how you can make the payment. Over to you, Pratik.
Thanks a lot, Suresh. Hello, everyone. Good. Am I still audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But the
Sorry.
PPT is not visible.
Okay, let me try sharing it again.
Okay, yeah. Can somebody please mute? There's some noise coming from the background.
Now, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can see the screen, but I'm just requesting somebody to mute the chat.
Yeah, there is some background noise. If you're not speaking, can you just put your mic on mute?
I guess it's gone now.
Thank you. So yeah, good morning and good evening to everyone. And as Shreyas mentioned, we'll be going through the different type of fee payments which are available in our university. And after that, we'll take the Q&A. So the first method is the electronic check, in which no fee is charged by our university. And the second is the demand draft, the cashier's check, the check, money order, and the traveler's check. In that also, none of the fee is included. And after that, the third option is using the credit card. It can be of American Express, Discover, and MasterCard only. And then if you use a credit card, 1.9% fee will be added to the amount. And after that, the last option which we have is international wire transfer. And from our university side, we don't have, they don't charge any kind of fee for accepting the wire transfers. And there are different kind of payment plans as well for the students. The first one is the installment plan, in which you can pay your tuition fees in different batches, but there is a charge $45 setup fee, which is charged by a university. The second option is a short-term loan. Uh, this is one of a kind. You can get the loan for your semester from our university itself. and they charge 1.25% origination fee. You don't have to do any kind of down payment, but there is a deadline to pay it, which is somewhat around in the middle of the semester. So you can avail this if it suits you. And the third plan is an installment plan, which is only for the ECS and MSc program. And there's a $50 fee for it. So let's go ahead and understand how we can do the tuition fee payment from India using the Flyer option. So the first and the foremost step is to create an account. Yeah, so the first step is to create an account of Flywire, and it's a very easy step. You can just go and search about the Flywire account in the Google, and you can hit the sign up link. And after filling all the required fields, you can easily create an account, as you can see in the picture as well. So after creating the account, you need to log in into your Galaxy account and then go to the Orion Student Center. And then after, you have to click on the Bursar account, and in the left panel you'll see an option called as payment options. So if you open that payment options, you'll get four options, which are enroll in short-term loan, linked to EasyPay, and the last one is the Flywire. So when you click on the Flywire option, then you'll be redirected to a page from where you can redirect to Flywire, where you have created an account. So the step three is where you have to provide your country and the amount which you need to transfer. And guys, if you're just trying it out, then $50 is the minimum amount. Uh, any amount greater than 50 will be accepted. And the fourth step is providing your payers information. So in this, you'll get a set of preferred payment methods, which you can choose according to which suits you. Like you have the ICICI banks or the domestic transfer bank, domestic bank transfer, or using your debit or credit card or the MasterCard. And after choosing your payment method, you have to pay the payer information. Just keep in mind this should be the person's information whose bank account or the card which you're using. And the next step is where you have to just enter all the required fields in the payer information. It's just similar to the last step. Yeah, and the next step is where you have to provide your self information, the student IDs, and the student IDs will be automatically filled, and you'll have to fill the rest of the information. And if you're using this option and you're looking for a referral code, then you can use a referral code UTD ISA 2020, and you'll get a $10 a gift card in the Flywire, which you can use in the next transaction. So yeah, as I mentioned, you can use this referral code UTDISA 2020, and then you'll get a $10 gift card when you pay your tuition fee. Yeah, the next step will be reviewing your information. You just need to review what amount you're using and the date. And after that, when if your everything is fine, then you can click on next, and then uh, these are just the additional steps which you need to follow. So at the bottom of the page, you'll find the instruction how to pay via your bank. That is where you want to go do it online or do you want to do it in person. And you just have to keep a note of this point that you'll have only 2 days to complete your transaction via your bank. Otherwise, whatever request you have raised up with the flyover, it will just be cancelled. And yeah, the Flywire support team is really great. You can, if you have any questions or queries, you can use the live chat option, which is very feasible, or either you can mail them or you can even just call them. They are very supportive. And apart from where if the Flywire has received the funds, they'll notify your college and the transaction will be completed. So these are the basic steps which you need to follow to do the international payment using the Flywire. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we'll take the questions.
So, thank you, Prateek. It was a really nice presentation. If anybody has any questions, you can put. Meanwhile, there's a slide which says that you need to send the convert your Indian rupees into the dollar and then send it to Flywire. So there be some banks in India who won't change the currency and who directly send the Indian currency to Flywire. So that is also possible. You can also generate your PDF not in dollar but in Indian currency by changing the currency when you put in the money in the while generating the PDF. So there are two ways of doing it. If your bank is comfortable doing the Indian currency, then you have to generate the PDF that way. Or if it doesn't, then if it's okay with them to generate a dollar PDF and they will convert on your behalf, then it's completely all right too. So how long will it take to university? I guess your transaction should be initiated within the 2 days after your PDF, and within like for 4 to 5 business days, at max, it happens. But if there's a deadline of like tomorrow and you initiate a payment today, and even if your payment like your money reaches like 2 days late to the university, fine. Your payment should be initiated before the deadline. Is there additional charge for transfer of funds? There are no additional charges, Rishabh. You will get receipt in by UTD also, and once the payment is done, then also you'll get it via Flywire, an acknowledgement message that the payment has been done. Yes, Rishabh, you need a bank account for EasyPay. But I guess we need to clarify on that with versus that are they allowing the Indian students to do the installment plan from India or not? So that is one thing. And
So we'll get the confirmation about the Indian account from the Bursar team, and we'll get back to you on this point.
what is the procedure to follow to make the fee? So from an US bank, actually, Lokesh, it's like if you have money in your account, you can just you can just log in your Bursars and pay it via providing your account and routing number. So it directly deducts your money from your account with no charges. So if you have a US bank account, then it's really easy to pay fees.
And yes, Sumit, I'm quite sure that the Flywire uses the RTGS.
Any more questions, guys? Yes, Krishnappa Nikhil, Prodigy, if you're taking loan from Prodigy, you don't have to worry anything. The Prodigy will send once your loan agreement is signed via Prodigy, the Prodigy will contact the university that you have the loan account with them, and then they will have the conversation, and you will be intimated that by what date your fees would be transferred to the university, and there's nothing from your side to be done. It's just that you need to sign the loan and then send it. That's it. And also, once you get a loan from Prodigy, you are defaulted into the financial aid category. So your payment deadline also get extended as per the financial aid deadline. So that is like, I guess, 10 or 20, 12 days later, the usual deadline. So take a note of that too. Sumit, what type of A2 form are you talking about? Lokesh, yes, you can log into your account, give their payment details, and you can pay your fees from their account. Sumit, are you talking about A2 form while paying fees via Prodigy or some other loan provider? Flywire, there is no need of an A2 form. I guess I have not ever paid a A2 form. That I just gave them the P. It was done. Am I right, Vishweshwar? Vishweshwar, we can't hear you.
Yeah, about the A2 form, I have also not heard about it, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I know.
Point in WhatsApp group. So Pratik, what was it like?
I'm just checking that.
Okay,
I can help to answer that question.
okay. So yeah, we have CC with us. She is from Flywire, and she knows great deal of Flywire. So thank you, CC, for joining. And yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I will answer the question first, and a little bit later introduce myself. So A2 form, also known as the LRS declaration form. So it's the liberalist remittance scheme regulation. It's by Indian government. And actually, so when you pay through the Flywires, that after you just type in all the information you need into the pay experience. So at the very last, you can receive actually instruction about how you're gonna provide those documents we need, and also your government need to verify your identification. So you can easily find those definition and structure on the very last step when you complete all the process with Flywire.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Like,
Shreyas, am I audible now?
yes, you're audible.
Okay, sorry. So what was the question? I missed that.
I guess CC covered about the LRS declaration, and like CC, Ayush is asking what's in the PDF that you mentioned of Flywire. So do you want to take that question?
Yeah, okay. So coming to the PDF that is generated by the Flywire, it is basically the instruction that we need to share with the bank, which is, I mean, basically with the education loan provider, so they can directly perform the RTGS, and then the bank provides you with the information like the receipt ID and the transaction ID. So that is actually the LRS declaration that we need to upload it into the Flywire web page. So it is done after the transaction is complete. So basically it is a compliance step, but you need to actually submit that information along with your passport and other details. So that is once you complete the payment. And I remember someone talked about making payment from a US bank account. So yes, you can do that. You just need to log into EasyPay, where you can actually fill out the details of your bank account and the routing details. So if any of your relatives does have a US bank account, you are good to go in that case as well. So you just need to have a US bank account number. Okay. Someone asked when, how will be. Once you initiate the process on the Flywire web page, that is when you will be able to download the PDF and actually the payment instructions. Any more questions, guys?
So good going, guys. Just clear your doubts. Even if we couldn't find the correct answer, we'll get the right resources and then we'll mail you the correct question about it. So feel free to ask. It is mentioned in the Bursar account that the fee payment deadline for scholarship is 27, but the class is starting from 17th August. So can we attend classes or will there be any holds? No, there are no holds, Lokesh. Since it is a fee payment deadline for the scholarship holders, you can start your classes and then pay your fees because that is an extra allowance for the people who have scholarship. So you don't need to worry about anything. You can just start joining your classes and pay your fees before 27. CC, are you
Another
there?
question?
Just a
Yeah,
second. Just a
sorry.
second, Joshua.
Sorry?
CC.
Yeah, I saw that question. Is that question you mentioned for paid today after applying Flywire via NEFT today from Indian Bank? Is that question you want to ask?
No, I'm asking that about the A2 form. Do we get that from the Flywire website or do they have to procure themselves from the bank?
So yeah, after you complete the process with the Flywire with your personal information complete, and actually we will provide instruction on how to get your A2 form on the very last step.
Okay. Yeah, Vishal, you can go ahead.
Yeah, Vishal asked another question that he has made the payment through Flywire using his Indian account. So, question to you, Vishal. Did you make the payment via your individual account or was it via a loan provider? So I'm assuming that it was your individual account. So it will be processed within a couple of days at max. And you can see it in the, transaction details, like where exactly is the status of the Flywire, transaction. And moreover, once you initiate the transaction, Flywire generally does, it transfers the amount to UTD, even if he himself has not, procured the entire amount from the transaction that was initiated by you. So you need not to worry that your payment is being reached to the university within the stipulated time frame or not. So if you have initiated, as Shresh already mentioned, that if you initiated the payment, you are good to go to attend the classes and all. And yes, there is no hold or anything till 27 if you are not paying the fee.
And Nimit, you have a TB hold. Are you currently in USA or you are doing classes from India? So because you should not have that hold. If you have that hold, like it's really inappropriate. You can mail the medical team like health at UTDALS. I'll just pull up that email ID for you, and you can mail them about this hold, and they'll remove it for you because. Yeah, as Gautam said, please do mail the health department. Okay, I'll just look for that email.
Okay, so Arul asked for I-20, how much percentage of total college fees should be made available in bank account for financial documents? So generally, it is somewhere around 1.5 to 1.6%. Uh, that should be the amount that you need to display for for your financial documents.
Ayushi, do you have the virtual I-20 with you? And has your status changed to FV visa in the iCommerce portal as instructed by ISS so that the people who are joining from India virtually do need to have a virtual I-20 at least, and then they can change their visa to FV. Stays to F1. Like, are you coming? Do you have a visa? Okay, FV. Yeah, then that is fine.
Vishal asked, yes, individual account, and for that also we need to show. Okay, so during the visa interview, so you need to be prepared, even if they do not ask for these information, you need to be prepared to take all the associated documents with you because if in case they ask, you need to provide that. So anything, I mean, even the smallest things like your class schedule, because this is totally a different time, so they might even ask you um, what kind of classes you are taking, whether they are remote or online, all that stuff. So you need to make sure that you have a printed document which shows all the classes that you are enrolled into, the fees that you have paid, the service fee, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and Nimit, you said that they are not like replying you back. You can try contacting the admissions team saying that I'm not getting getting in touch with the health center. So kindly help me with that. Or if you are from a particular department, you can also mail your department with your query saying that you're not able to register. So try emailing everybody. Don't just hold back that you're getting a automatic from a department. They might not be able to service you, but some other department might. So make sure you reach out to each and everybody.
So talking about the fees related questions in visa interviews, so I don't think they generally ask you such questions. So just that because everything is already mentioned in your I-20. But yes, you need to support that information with your financial documents, like you do have sufficient funds. So as I mentioned, you at least need to show somewhere around 1.5 to 1.6%. So more the merrier.
And please make sure, like while you are talking about numbers in your visa interview, don't go back on something you thought that you said it wrong. Like it's like you have to have a confident face and with your numbers. Like if you happen to say that no, this was not the right number which I was talking about, and then they'll like start scrutinizing you again and again about that. So make sure you are really confident about if you're speaking about any number. So they'll ask you what's your budget, or like how much are you planning, how much funds do you have, who is supporting you, and how much. So that how much thing you need to break it down, you need to practice that really well. So that is my 2 cents of advice for that. And
Yeah,
Sumit,
just to
your
add to that,
situation.
Shreyash,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah, this is Pradeep. So my visa got rejected for the first time because I was quite shy in giving the interview because I just thought it would be like a normal interview where they'll ask my name and then I'll tell my name and they'll ask my purpose and I'll tell my purpose. Actually, the interviewer was just looking for a broad answer. So I personally feel that giving a broad answer always keeps you on a safer side, even if they just ask for your name, just explain everything, whatever comes into your mind. So just giving point to point answer will not suffice from my experience. So just be confident and just keep a smiling face and just keep answering. And so yeah, the next time when I followed these steps, my visa got accepted.
And yes, definitely to add to it, it should be more of a conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
just need to be normal and relaxed. Try to, just be a normal conversation. Rest, everything goes fine, I guess so.
Yeah, like it's actually a conversation, and like we already read a lot about the visa interview, and when you come in front of the visa office, it feels different. Like for some, it feels like you're like taken aback, or like what will happen. But if you just like see that, okay, you know what, you're having a conversation with an American who you have to have a conversation coming here on basis, it will just be normal. So like the thing about numbers I spoke about, I messed up with my numbers, but I repeated the same when she asked me to repeat. So it was like I told 4 to 5 lakhs more in my account, and it was actually what. So I was shivering down, but I didn't show it on my face to her. And then when she told me that, what numbers did you just spoke, and I just repeated the same which I told. Even if when I knew that, you know what, I'm speaking wrong, but it just happens. It happens in a while. So when you start speaking, you're comfortable, and so don't worry about your visa. Yeah, our university is very prestigious, and not much many visas are rejected. Like the rejection ratio is really low, but yeah, it also depends upon individual. So how you prepare for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You need to be very thorough, especially with your financial documents. Okay.
Yeah, so the COVID situation, I guess, it is going down here day by day. It might be high in Texas, as Gotham said, but here around UT Dallas, it's low, and it's nothing of concern. But yeah, still there are protocols being followed with masks and everything, in every superstore. So that is there.
Lakshit, to answer your question, you can always check for another statistics class and get enrolled into it. And if you do not find any of the statistics class that that you want to get enrolled, you can definitely go and enroll into some other classes.
Yeah. So the only reason a class gets cancelled in JSOM is that there might not be sufficient number of students, or the professor would have opted out of taking a class this semester. So there are two reasons. So that there might be like OPR 6301 is a very popular class amongst the incoming students, and there might be some issues with the faculty. Like he might have some emergency plans for a different subject. So you can enroll in different courses. There are a lot of tons of professors, like I guess 5 to 6 professors for OPR 6301, which you can opt for. So any more questions, guys, related to payment or anything? Like you can come with anything. It's just not restricted to payment.
Mukul asked, I want to come mid-sem, so I should choose courses delivered in hybrid mode. Uh, I mean, that's really a difficult question because I'm not really sure because whether you will be able to come during the midterm or not. Also, it is not suggestible to to come during the midterm because I heard some of the mails from the ISO stating that it is actually not suggested to come during the midterm, and it will be really difficult to explain the situation to the immigration officer, like why you are so late during the semester. So. I mean, just check with ISO whether they recommend to come during the midterm or not. Okay, and what was the second part? Yes, definitely. So you should choose, courses that are in hybrid mode because they are, as of now, they are actually in online mode. So they are called as hybrid just because you need to be on a specific time taking the classes. So even though it is online. Okay, next question. Arul, for virtual fall 20 is online. Asynchronous classes still recommended over virtual classes for people still in India. Considering the time zone, and will the entire tutor will still be the person we reach out for the post-work clarification? Yes, it totally depends upon you whether you are comfortable taking classes during the central time, central standard time. So if you are comfortable, it is always preferable to take the in-person or the remote classes.
So, and
But
I love to add to that, Vishweshwar. There are teaching assistants for every class. So even if you can't reach the tutor, you can still reach the TA. There is a designated TA ask, or you can just email the TA and reach out to you about your query. So nothing to worry about. Anything you need, you will there would be people who will be helping you. So, and about that, like, you can there is the experience about learning virtually will be a pleasing experience, I guess. Like, if you hop into e-learning UTD, the structure of e-learning UTD is very good, and you get all the resources. Like, the assignments would be there with assignment folder, be there is slides folder where you get all the content, and there would be quizzes folder where you get the quizzes. So it's very user friendly, and it won't hinder anything while you learn virtually from India. So, so about also that question, how is online exam experience different from the level of offline exam experience? So actually, the online experience, it's actually, if it is not proper, you can like do a group exam. It's actually here, and if it's proctored, you have to have clean room where there is nobody inside, and you can't keep any paper. So there is a tutor actually who sees you sitting from a particular location. But usually professors don't prefer that, but there are some professors who do that. So when it comes to that, it's just similar to how you give your exam in your testing center. But apart from that, the online exam is just that need to have your own internet connection really good, or else you will like end up not giving the exam, and then you will have to request the professor. If the professor agrees to what you are saying, then you might get a second chance. But these are the things you need to take care while having an online exam experience. So even if the exam is at home, it is still a multiple choice in most of the cases. So even if you're doing it at home or at the testing center, the UI and all the things are still the same. So answer to that, Sumit.
yeah, to add on, I mean, even when you're doing your classes on campus, the majority of the exams are done online itself. So we do have a testing center where you need to go and give your exams. Or there are some professors who take online exams within the class schedule itself. And as Shresh mentioned, you really need to have a good connection. And then there are some prerequisites if in case the professor asks you to install some of the extra softwares like Respondus lockdown browser. So those will be the instructions that will be shared to you by the professor before the exam begins. Okay, the next.
Yeah,
next
YT is asking that where can he check about the visa status? So changing fee, you can see it in a iComment portal, if I'm not wrong. You have to submit a request there, and then you can see if your status has been changed or not. And what is the maximum number of credits one can manage safely? So it's actually a personal choice, and it depends on a lot of factors. Ideally, you need to be enrolled in 9 credit hours to maintain your F1 status. So apart from that, you can take an additional subject, 12 credit hours, and that is the amount of credits people take in the first semesters, because they like that leaves you less credits in the upcoming semester, so you can manage your semesters, like your master's journey pretty good. So 12 credit, that is 4 subjects you can take and manage safely. But yes, it also depends upon a particular individual, like how he wants to have his masters done. So I did not take 12 credit. I took 9. I wanted to take it slow. So it also depends upon you, Vinod, that if you want to take that extra subject or not. And yeah, there have been cases that students have taken 15 credits too. So it's like it actually depends from an individual to individual. So yeah, Vishweshwar,
Yeah,
you
that's
have
right. Yeah, that's right. That totally depends upon you. So, I mean, for me, it was again, I just only took three subjects, 9 credit hours, just because I do have, worked a lot and I was out of touch of studying. So, it totally depends upon you. But yes, if you are regularly in touch with studying and if you are, thinking of taking out like 4 to 5 hours a day, in that case, it is really easy for you to manage four subjects. So if you are a guy who is like who can be able to spare like 4 to 5 hours a day in studying, then four subjects is like a piece of cake for you. The next question here is from Mukul. So hybrid course can be taken from India.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Sorry.
may I add something about that four courses? So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Raj.
Sure.
yeah, I took four courses in my first semester. So, out of them, econometrics is the only one which was the toughest. So, when you are planning to take four courses in a semester, try having only one of them as the toughest one. You can ask any seniors which course is the toughest, and then or which courses are easier to learn, which are medium. So try to choose the courses which are easy and hard. So that way you would have time to focus on one subject which may be a hard, because you would definitely have to give more time to that, and then you would be losing on time for the easier one which you can manage. So it totally depends on your time schedule, as they said, and also the courses which you pick.
That was
That's it.
really a good advice, Rajshekar. So yes, you definitely need to consider and plan like which subject is tough for you, which might be easy for you, and plan it accordingly.
And just
Okay,
to
so
add to that, for the JSOM in the JSOM, if you want to be eligible for the scholarships, you need to have 12 credit hours for the fall semester. Yeah, if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
apply for the Dean Excellence.
Like if you're joining from spring, you need to have completed 12 credit hours before summer. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
that is the criteria to apply for a scholarship, since after the scholarship has been turned from fall to fall, so you can't apply a new scholarship in spring when you started. But for the next fall, when you try to get a scholarship, you need to become so. For the people who are studying online, that criteria will be fulfilled. You need not worry. But who are thinking to defer their admissions need to take a note of it. Um, and
coming to
then
the
you
next
have
question.
yeah. The question is. Two of my online classes are still showing the days and time status at TBA. When will it be finally put up? So Kathan, like it's actually are the classes OW classes, or are the classes the virtual remote learning classes? Since if the classes are OW, it will stay TBA because that is the thing for online classes. But if not, then it will take like a week or so, I guess, before they find each and every class about their mode of delivery. So you need not worry about that. The time will come up, but you need to first check that you're not enrolled into OWL classes right now.
There was another question before that. So hybrid course can be taken from India.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
you can take. Yes, you can take that.
So Jocelyn is asking, I have changed my status to FV. When can I expect to receive the new I-20 for the virtual start? So I guess you can start, right? Like for your virtual, you already have a virtual I-20, right? So your change of status to FV, you can still continue your like starting your masters, and then the I-20s will take care of themselves once you change your status to FV.
Coming to the next question from Piyush, can one manage 60.12 and 60.59? So first of all, you will not be able to take directly 60.59 because 6301 is a prerequisite to it. So if this is your first semester, you won't be able to take 6359 until unless you get it waived. So
May I speak, Vishweshwar? Hello?
yeah, sure. Yeah, sure, Piyush.
I am able to enroll in both the courses.
You okay in 6359 as well?
As well as 6312 time series econometrics by Moran.
So
Piyush,
6301 is in your card as well?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
But okay, I'm pretty sure that you might not be able to register into 6359. I mean, did you completed your registration or that is still in your card?
I have completed registrations for 4 subjects. Okay, business analytics with R from Saurabh Chatterjee, then advanced statistics for data science by Monica Bruselo, then
Okay.
that is 6359.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and time series and econometrics by Moran. And the last one was database foundations by R. Lakshmikaran.
Okay. That is a bit strange because for 65.9, 6001 is a prerequisite.
Like it's
And
like Piyush, Vishweshwar, has Piyush given any exams to waive off the statistic? Because some students do that and can take advanced statistic
Might
like
be
before.
it's like I had 2 years calculus in my classes that would have been waived off.
okay,
Like
yeah.
I have
that's
not
not
notified
can waive
anything.
off,
No,
but
even in my
have you
case, I
provided
was able
something
to.
from your side?
Yeah, hi, this is Lokesh. Even in my case, I was able to enroll into 6359.
We didn't have it. Like we had the prerequisite and we had to give an exam before turning turning to statistics to advanced statistics. So it was there till spring itself. So I don't know if they have changed it or they have allowed you to do that. But if you go to like complete your registration, there might be
I
you
completed
know.
my registration.
Mhm.
And just a
I
suggestion,
completed my
in case,
registration.
even in
Actually,
case,
during the webinar, they gave a list of courses which we can enroll, and 6359 is part of that
Yes,
uh,
it was
four
suggested by
courses. Yeah.
Gaurav, Professor
Yes.
Gaurav Sekhar.
I guess
okay.
there are some curriculum changes to various courses, so they might have removed the prerequisite, but I can still, if I visit the curriculum, that they have that prerequisite still there in the details. If you just hover over OPRE 6359 or like UN 6359, we have written there. But I guess they might have changed the criteria for from this semester. You can like start to register the advanced
Yeah,
statistics directly.
yeah, sure.
So
The catalog might have changed. But to suggest you, like even if you're taking 65 statistics for data science, just be aware that it might not cover the basics of statistics. So you need to, prepare yourself for, for the statistics for data science class. And it is going to be a difficult class, trust me. And again, econ is another difficult class. And both the professors that we are taking, Piyush, Moran, and Monica, are both a tough breakers. So, I mean, if you are willing to go with it, it's fine. I personally would not have suggested.
Okay, thank you, Vishweshwar. Got the answer from your smile.
I mean, honestly, these two are the base of business analytics course, and it is really, I mean, both of them are really tough subjects. So until and unless you are really keen into calculus and all, it would be a bit difficult for you to initially grasp the statistics thing. And if you're not able to grasp the statistics thing, it will be really difficult for you to, grasp the econ things as well.
Thanks, Vishweshwar.
You're welcome.
yeah, so the questions following, I guess Gautam has taken
Shreya,
good care of them and replied to everybody. So I guess we are like the next question, which might have been
Yeah,
not
uh,
answered.
I
there is another question.
I
Yeah,
have something that's
Yeah, Rajshekar, go ahead.
yes. I took Moran for econometrics in my first semester. So according to my understanding, what she repeatedly kept saying during the classes was
it's better to have a statistics course in the first semester and then come on to the econometrics on next semester. This is what I have heard from her. So if you have a base understanding on statistics and mathematics and calculus, econometrics in the first semester itself. If not, it's good to go in the later semesters. Because whatever
That's
the
right.
whatever the topics which you would be encountering econometrics will all the basis and the foundation topics will be covered in BA with R and statistics.
Yeah, and I too have not yet taken the econ class yet. So I'll be taking it in my next semester, last semester.
I took statistics, BA with R, and economics in the first semester. So having them as a side parallel courses that helped me a lot to understand. But if in case you are not taking statistics or BA with R, I would suggest you to postpone this economics to later semester. That's
Okay.
Hi.
Samir,
Hi.
sorry.
sorry.
This is Mukul. I want to ask a question. Can I speak?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
So basically, I was reading that it is mandatory to take 12 credits for us to apply for the scholarship next year. So I just want a little more clarity on this. So I am thinking of pursuing the fall semester online. So I just want to know that if I take 9 credits, so will my scholarship be continued for spring 2021? And will there be
Uh,
any issue applying for the scholarships in next fall, that is fall 2021?
so
No, there is
Mukul,
no issue.
yeah, go
Shreyas.
ahead.
So if you already have a scholarship, there is no issue taking up 9 credit hours this semester and taking up 9 credit hours next semester. And if you need to apply in the next fall, even in that case, you are good to go because you have completed like 18 credit hours. So the requirement for applying to the next fall scholarship is you need to have like 12 credit hours completed. So you are good to go just because you are completing more than 18 credit hours, including one professional development class.
Yes, right, right. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. So
Yeah.
the next question here we have is how will the refund be done if we have paid through Flywire? So in
Gautam
that
has
case,
answered it, Vishweshwar, in the chats. Gautam has answered it in the chat. So we can move to the next question because we are running out of time.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
mm, what is the next question which we can take? Um, like how long does the fee payment Flywire takes? I guess it's 3 to 5 business days. Brianna, we spoke about in the initial part of the webinar. If you have missed it, we'll put up the recording. You can view that. And if you have, you can reach out to us via WhatsApp groups or via our email. And I will use. Uh,
Meetney is asking if I am taking 2 subjects online mode and one virtual mode, will it be difficult to do projects or for the subject clarification? So it is not going to be a problem because we have done that in the past semester, like the summer semester as well as half of the spring semester was completely online. So we do have tools like WebEx, Teams, and Blackboard to collaborate. So you can use and leverage any of these tools in order to connect and collaborate with your peers. So that should not be an issue.
I guess we are good. We have like answered the majority of the questions. Nitika, you want to speak something?
Yeah, actually, I'm just waiting. Actually,
Yeah, yeah.
I just need a little bit clarification over my courses. I just opted for the 4 courses this semester. Advanced Start under Monica Brusilo and OOPS under with Python under Radha Mukherjee and Web Analytics Amit Mehra and business data warehousing at Anu Lehri. So I just want to hear about the views about the professor and the course. Is it okay? And if it's, I have opted for the most difficult one. I'm just want to have a views of yours.
Yeah, actually, Nitika, like we're running out of time, but I'm just asking, like, have you been assigned a buddy yet?
Not yet, I think.
Like, have you signed up for the buddy program from ISA?
No.
Oh, so like we actually have a program where you get paired up with a buddy from like a senior from UTD, and then you can ask any questions like this to him, because like if you ask a questions like this in a webinar, like we might run out of time, like we have done. But you can reach out to us via WhatsApp group, because I don't want everybody to wait since we are running out of time. So the subjects, like actually I'll just brief you about it. I don't remember what subjects you told. I just remember BW and something. But about the professors, like every professor is almost the same in UTD, and like there is nothing, but it depends upon the course how much the professor gives. Like the assignments are more, or the quizzes are more. So that is the difference between a basic professor from one professor to other professor. The teaching, like it's like for you guys it's virtual, so it actually will get a little difficult for you to ask questions, and like joining from India late night, so there might be difficulties regarding to that. But the difficulty level of the professor depends upon how much he assignments and quizzes he gives throughout the semester, and also what type of exam does he take, like how it is, like multiple choice or something like that. So it actually has a broad scope of answer, but I'll just stop here.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Okay, I understand.
Just to add one line to it, you can always go to UTD grades and rate my professors to check for the professor ratings and how was the grading that he did in past. So that could probably help you in deciding whether you need to take that professor or you are looking for an easy grader or a tough grader.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So we are out of time. Shreya, I think let's conclude. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just end the webinar by sending the buddy program link. So if anybody wants to sign up, please do here. And yeah, we like as Pratik has mentioned, we do like temporary accommodations and free airport pickups. But due to this unusual semester, we have not started with it because there aren't any students who are coming here. So but like once you start coming in spring, will just reach out to us and we'll start the forms and all the process about getting you from airport to this university. And also we might give up till 3 days. So look forward to that in the upcoming semester. And if there are any changes in the present semester, we'll address that too in the mid semester. We might have a webinar in mid semester. So that's it from our side. A big round of applause to every ISC officer who has joined and helped us throughout the webinar. And for every other person joining this webinar, you can reach out to us via our social media channels on our Instagram page or via our page, or you can also drop in a text in our all 4 WhatsApp groups, either of which you are part of. And yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you soon in Dallas. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, guys.
The recording will be put up in YouTube in some time, so don't worry about that.
Okay, I'm ending this session.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Visheshwar. Thank you, everyone else.